You open the fridge, there's nothing there. So what's it gonna be? Greasy pizza? Sad drive-thru burgers? Dish by Blue Apron is for nights like that. These are the pre-made meals of your dreams. At least 20 grams of protein, no artificial flavors or colors, no chopping, no cleanup, no guilt. Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
This episode is brought to you by Paranormal Playback, a new podcast where hosts Shar, Mel and Laura recap the spooky and entertaining world of paranormal reality TV. Each week they take a fresh look at popular shows like Ghost Adventures and Kindred Spirits, blending humour with insight as they pull apart what's happening on screen. The 3 of them are a mix of believers and skeptics, which makes for really fun conversations, sometimes leaning into mystery, other times asking the questions viewers might be thinking themselves. With their background in creative production, they know how these shows are put together, so they're great at pointing out the moments that feel real versus the ones that might be more for the cameras. And their segment, This Old Haunt, digs into the true crime side of paranormal investigations, separating fact from fiction. With Halloween coming up, it's the perfect time to add something spooky, funny and a little addictive to your playlist. For even more spooky, ghostly, paranormal content with a humorous spin, go check out Paranormal Playback. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Scary. Before we get into this week's episode, I just want to take a quick moment and share something really special. Scary, a Paranormal Podcast, has just won 2 Signal Awards, and honestly, I can't quite believe I'm saying that out loud. We won gold for Best Paranormal or Horror Podcast and bronze for a Driveway Moment Podcast. This is the very first time the show has ever won an award, and it means the world. Not just because of the recognition, but because it comes from something that started so small, which is still the case, just me, a mic, and all of you sending in your stories. So to every single listener, Patreon and supporter who's been part of this, thank you so much. And whether you've been here since the early episodes or just discovered the show, thanks for all your messages, your reviews and your story submissions that are keeping the whole thing going. And a huge thank you to the Signal Awards team for recognising the show and the judges for giving us gold and bronze. Thank you so much. Before we get into this week's episode, we need to say a special thank you to our new Patreon subscribers who are Jared Carter, Kelly Baldwin, Sander VL and Mixter. Thank you so much for signing up to the show's Patreon, and if this is something you're interested in, you can find a link in this episode's show notes where you can gain access to ad-free main episodes and exclusive scary episodes. But now, let's get into our next paranormal encounter. I started running during the lockdowns. It wasn't really about fitness. I just needed a reason, like everybody, to get out of the house. I was 29, working from home, not really seeing anybody, and most of the days felt exactly the same. Running gave me a reason to wake up early, to have somewhere to be. There was a trail that looped around the reservoir where I lived. It's about 5 kilometres in total, mostly gravel with some uneven parts where tree roots had pushed up through the path. If you went early enough, it was quiet. You'd get a few dog walkers, maybe the odd cyclist, but mostly you would have the place to yourself. I started going there almost every morning. I was developing a new habit. I could just zone out and not think of anything for a while, put my headphones in. After a few weeks, I started recognising the same people. There was a guy who ran with a headlamp even when it wasn't dark. There was a woman who power walked in pretty much fluorescent pink. And I remember there was a man with a small brown dog, and he always carried a flask. We'd pass each other, nod and keep going. No one ever stopped to talk, especially with all the COVID stuff going on. On one of my morning runs, I noticed this man standing right at the edge of the reservoir. He was on a strip of grass between the path and the water line, just facing the lake, looking out at it. He was about maybe 6 foot, thin but not frail. He had a dark jacket on that reached just past his hips and dark trousers. He just looked like a regular guy, I suppose. I couldn't really see his face clearly from where I was, but his hair looked grey maybe, or just light in colour. He didn't move the whole time I ran by, didn't glance over, didn't shift his weight, just stood there looking at the water. I don't know why I paid much attention to him really. The next week, the same day, same time, he was there again. Same spot, same stillness. And then again the week after that. This guy was as still as a stop sign. He was becoming a waypoint really. It got to the point where I expected to see him. Like how you would notice a certain tree or a bench when you ran past it on the same route. He didn't make any noise, never interacted with anybody that I could see. I never saw him arrive or leave. He was just there when I got to that part of the path and gone when I looped back around. I always remember one particular morning. There was a really light mist, and I remember glancing over in the direction where he stood, and I could just see him through the mist, and it was really creepy. I remember it was a Sunday. I had slept really bad the night before, but I went running anyway. The path around the reservoir was damp from rain, and there was patches of mud here and there. I had run that loop so many times that I barely paid attention to where my feet landed. I had my headphones in, half listening to music, and I remember thinking how empty the place was. The rain must have kept people away. When I got to the far side, the stretch where the trees lean over the path and it kind of slopes down, it drops down towards the water, I saw this guy again in the same spot. I ran on. At one side the ground is quite steep. It's not a cliff, but there was a definite drop. As I'm running, my foot slid and the gravel gave way under me, and before I knew what was happening I was off the path. I fell pretty hard. I remember hitting the side of the slope and tumbling down and just hearing branches breaking off my body, and there was this sharp pain in my ankle. After that I don't remember anything. I obviously banged my head. When I came to, everything was quiet. It was like as if I was underwater. I was lying on my side pretty much the whole way down the slope. I could just smell the earth all around me. My ankle was throbbing. I tried to move and I just felt this crack of pain shoot up my leg. I looked up towards the path, and it just seemed to be miles above me. Then my head started throbbing, and when I moved my hand up to my head and took it away, I could see that I was bleeding. I banged my head off a stone or something. I remember trying to get on my feet and just feeling incredibly dizzy, and the pain of my ankle. I knew I needed help, and I didn't know when the next person was going to come around. I couldn't find my phone. I couldn't ring anybody. It had clearly fallen out on the tumble and was lost somewhere along the way. I just remember sitting there again, and then everything went white and I passed out again. I'm not sure for how long I was out, but I eventually came around. I remember looking up in the direction of the path, and then I saw him, the man that I had seen so many times, standing at the water. He was standing at the top of the slope, just standing watching me. For a second I honestly thought I was imagining him. My vision was definitely blurry. My head felt heavy. And then I could see that he was moving. He was moving slowly at first, and then more steadily, just coming down the slope towards me, taking these careful, kind of quiet, not rushed steps. When he reached me, he didn't say a word. He just crouched down beside me, slipped one arm around my back, and his hand came to rest against my waist firm, and he just helped me sit up, then got me on my feet. So I'm just thanking him for coming down and getting me, and just telling him how I think my ankle is broken, and thank you so much, and kind of distracted with the pain of it all as well. He just held me up and just really steadily and calmly moved forward until we reached the top. And when we got to the path, I dropped down to my knees from the pain. I looked down at my leg, and when I looked up again, he was gone. The slope was empty. The path was empty. There was no sound. There was no movement. There was nothing at all to indicate that he had walked away or ran off. The path just stretched out in both directions. There was no sign of this guy at all. And then I realised he didn't say a single word to me. I just remember trying to stand, but I couldn't. My ankle was starting to swell, and it was in a really, really bad way. I ended up crawling a few feet and then realising how dizzy I was from the pain or from banging my head, and I ended up just sitting against a fence post, just breathing. A few minutes later, luckily a cyclist came along and helped me call for an ambulance. I had broken my ankle in 2 places and had a concussion. And when they asked me how I managed to get up the slope, I just said, someone helped me. They assumed I meant another runner, and I didn't correct them. I never saw that guy again after that. I actually asked some of the people I would encounter on the walk if they had ever seen a guy that was by the water on his own. Did they know who he was? Nobody knew who he was. I can still feel the weight of his hand around my waist and my arm around his shoulder. He was a solid person. Eventually my ankle healed, and after a long period of time I managed to get back running again. I still run the same area. It's still on my list of routes, and I go to other places. But like I said, I never saw that guy again. Thank you to Marcus J for sending in his paranormal encounter. And now, let's get into our next. I have shared this story one other time, and it still gives me chills, but it's one of the clearest memories of my childhood. It was the summer of 1991. I was 6 years old, and I was visiting my grandmother's house. My mum and grandma were in the back of the house, and I was told to go to the front room and put on some cartoons. So there I was, completely absorbed in an episode of Rocky and Bullwinkle, when suddenly someone appeared in the doorway between the living room and the dining room. This guy was tall, he had curly brown hair, this bushy moustache, and he had big buck teeth. I hadn't heard any footsteps, no doors, no creaking floors. This guy was just there. And I remember him leaning against the doorway, and he smiled at me and he said, "Hi, so you're the one they say is full of piss and vinegar?" I was 6. I had no clue what that meant. And I just remember answering, "I don't know, but they call me Half Pint." And he just chuckled and said, "I'm your Uncle Bunny, your grandma's little brother." I just remember thinking, what a weird name, and replied back saying, That's a weird name." And he grinned and said, "Well, I think it's the teeth that make me look like a bunny." Then, like he wanted to make me laugh, he tossed out this joke, and I don't remember it all the way, but it was some cheeky joke about a scarecrow. And I remember giggling, and he laughed right along with me. And then he winked and said, "I've got another one for you. What do you call cheese that isn't yours?" "Nacho cheese." And at that point I was really laughing, and it just felt like talking to a funny uncle I'd known forever. After a moment, I told him Grandma was in her room and turned back to my cartoons. And when I looked again, the doorway was empty. So a little while later, my mom came to help me with my shoes because it was time to go, and I casually asked her where Uncle Bunny had gone. And she said, "Who?" And I said, "Uncle Bunny, the tall guy with the curly hair and the buck teeth." And her face just went pale, and she started searching the house, opening doors, looking everywhere, but there was no one. She brought me to my grandma and asked me to repeat the story, and my grandma just teared up and softly said, "Oh, you got a visitor, huh?" That was the end of it for the day, though I do remember my mom getting me a Happy Meal afterwards, maybe to smooth things over because she was so shaken. Years later, when I was a teenager, the topic came up again, and that's when I learned the truth. My Uncle Bunny really was my grandma's younger brother. He had drowned in an accident 10 years before I was even born. When my grandma passed away in 2007, I felt certain Uncle Bunny was there waiting for her, just like he had been there for me all those years ago. Thank you to Kristin for sending in our second paranormal encounter. Don't forget, if you have your own paranormal experience that you'd like me to narrate on the show, you can send it to scaryaparanormalpodcast@gmail.com, and it just might get made into a future episode. Don't forget to hit the follow button so you don't miss any future episodes of Scary. All the links to the socials can be found in this episode's show notes, and join me next time for another episode of Scary.
Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to keep my kids entertained without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids are obsessed. Yoto is a screen-free audio player where kids just pop in a card and listen. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more, and no screens or ads. With hundreds of options for ages 0 to 12, it's the perfect gift they'll go back to again and again. Check it out at yotoplay.com. YOTOPLAY.com.
If you're a smoker or vapor, ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Check out zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contrast. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to keep my kids entertained without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids are obsessed. Yoto is a screen-free audio player where kids just pop in a card and listen. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more, and no screens or ads. With hundreds of options for ages 0 to 12, it's the perfect gift they'll go back to again and again. Check it out at yotoplay.com. YOTOPLAY.com.
If you're a smoker or vapor, ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Check out zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.